Welcome to Nasdaq Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, global markets reporter at Nasdaq. Joining me remotely is Phil Mackintosh, chief economist at Nasdaq, to review how policymakers and investors model out the global economic impacts of the coronavirus. Phil, it's great to have you with me as always. And it seems as if economic data is starting to show the reality of this forced shutdown. And we certainly saw that in employment and jobless claims this morning. We've nearly wiped out all the gains since the Great Recession.
Yeah, but again, the markets kind of expected that. So the market was flattish when it opened this morning. It's actually down a little bit more on some news from the banks with earnings season. So I think, the data that we've been seeing, the fact that this is well telecast, that people have been asked to go home and not work, it's showing up. This is actually middle of April now. We're still getting March data, but it's not good, but it's pretty much expected by the market. So the good news for the market is we've priced it all in already.
Now, if we take a look at your first slide of the day here, building up savings to spend, that certainly makes sense as there's a lot of pent-up demand. But if the rest of the middle class with jobs isn't spending because their fear of getting laid off is real, I feel like everyone's playing defense right now. How realistic is it going to be when we all come back and we're sort of starting playing offense with this pent-up demand?
Yeah, I guess what was interesting to me about this too is Citibank reported that credit card spending was down 30%. So a lot of people are potentially saving a little bit of money. To your point, there could be some pent-up demand when we get out of this, but there's also a lot of sectors that aren't actually seeing sales down. So the building materials, the healthcare, obviously, food and drink makes a lot of sense too. So not everybody is hurting the same way. And that probably helps us address your other question, which is how do we get out of this? Obviously, proximity to people is going to be really important. Feeling safe around others is going to be really important. So testing is going to be really important. And I think when you look at what some other countries are doing in Europe, Germany now, Spain now are starting to open up. Obviously, China has been opened up for a while. Korea has not gone into lockdown. What they've done is sensible protective measures like wearing masks around in public. We're using heat guns to go into shopping centers to make sure that people don't have a fever. And also just there's a little bit of talk about whether people could be tested and sort of have a card that shows that they're recovered and so immune. And those sorts of things will give people more confidence. Emirates overnight started to actually do blood tests before they put people on the plane to make sure that they weren't carrying the virus, which those are the sorts of things we might have to do to get us all comfortable with different levels of contact going forward.
Yeah, and those are all great points. And it'll be interesting to see how those kinds of measures would play out in the United States, where civil liberties are such an important part of who we are as a society. Look at what we go through when it comes to private data collection. Let's move on to our next slide here. Global daily cases actually are showing a slight uptick.
Yeah, I guess you don't expect it to go down continually, and it's pretty constant across all the different countries have these kinds of bumps on the way down. But hopefully that the trend isn't broken. We didn't make a new high. And so, we're just looking forward. It's been nearly a couple of weeks now since the peak, and it does seem like we've broken the exponential increase, but we're still seeing over 50,000 cases a day. So it's not like we've got rid of the virus, and that's why the protective measures are going to need to be in place for us to go back to work.
All right, let's talk about that in our last chart here, returning back to work. And we can see this is looking at Chinese traffic on subways and planes, still well below average, but it seems as if this is going to have to be a very deliberate, gradual process back.
Factories look like they're pretty much back to 80% capacity. People that are driving to work are quite comfortable to do that. If you can work comfortably around people with masks on, then people are doing that. So that probably points to the way that we're going to have to phase the reintroduction of work back into people's lives. We're going to have to try and keep people away from each other when we're stuck on trains and planes, and make it safer to do those things. But lots of things that we do on a daily basis should be fine, especially if we are putting the people that are currently infected back into quarantine and catching them early.
All right, Phil, thanks for joining us as always.
You're welcome.
All right, and thanks for joining me on Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, global markets reporter at Nasdaq.